Now, when it comes to shopping meats, it's similar to buying the pre-cut up fruits and vegetables. You would rather be buying a chunk of meat and cut it up yourself if you're going to do your own stew meat or your own steaks. Now, I really prefer you find a farmer and get your meat directly from a farmer. That way it's typically less price, and it's also more, you can control how that cow has been raised. If I'm going to buy from the grocery store, I'm looking for organic, and when I can find it, I will stock up, because as the prices have been adjusted over the last couple of years on our price points with the food industry, we've had a lot, our grocery bill has gone up a lot. When it comes to ground meat, you're looking at percentages. So this is a 90%, we got a 93%, and we got an 85%. And you may think you want the highest percent of lean. Well, that's not true, because we need healthy fats in our diet. To be quite honest, the best tasting ground meat is going to be your 85%. Now you'll see that over here we have a 90% sirloin versus ground beef. That's going to be a better cut. The sirloin's a better cut of meat, yet this is going to give us a more fat point, which typically people like the flavor of a higher fat. Now if we zoom all the way up to the top of this section, we see the organic at the top, and that's an 85% lean. And we have, so the company is saying no antibiotics, no added hormones, it's grass-fed. Now, grass-fed can mean a couple different things, and it depends on the farmer how they did it. Grass-fed is supposed to be from the moment it is born and it's been weaned from the mom until day of butcher. It can also mean it was grass-fed up until it was moved into a feedlot and then it was fed grain. It doesn't say exclusively grass-fed, it just says grass-fed. So perhaps on the back, so grass-fed right from the start, with the cattle grazing on the finest non-GMO forage. In other words, they haven't sprayed the fields with any other chemicals. Very natural ground beef. It tastes great on your plate. So this would actually be a very good purchase item to get. You know you're getting exactly what's healthy for your family. You got the good fat level compared to the non-organic, which is only $1 less. So for the value of your health, this is worth the investment to pay the extra $1. We're going to look at the comparison between steak and ground beef. And what I want you to understand is we're going to talk about bacteria, we're going to talk about flavor, we're going to talk about how do you handle this meat and which one is the safest one for you to be eating today and why. So first of all, let's start with ground beef. Realize ground beef, all of the meat has been processed. Once it's been processed, there's already that opportunity for oxygens to start oxidizing the meat. You remember when we cut open an apple and it starts to turn brown? Well, the same happens with ground beef. So once it's been processed and put through that processing mechanism, then it's going to start turning brown. So you only have a certain amount of time before that's going to happen. So when ground beef is processed, it then has to be kept at a certain temperature, which is right at freezing, from the processing plant to the truck deliveries to where it arrives at the grocery store until it's put out here on the shelf. It is always maintained at a very much, almost a freezing level. Now, here's something that you really need to understand. You only have a couple hours for this before it can really start turning brown. So if you pick it up at the store and it's nice and pink, and you take it home and you try to serve it that night, and it's like, wow, it's already turning brown. What happened? That must be bad meat. No, it's just being oxidized. That's what the browning is. It's just that browning of the apple or the browning of the meat because of the oxygen. Now, that doesn't mean it's bad, but it means you didn't keep it at a cold temperature during the transportation home. So one key thing I want you to take away from today's video is bring a cooler to the grocery store when you're going to buy ground meat. This is very important. Actually, I've been talking to the butchers here at Tom Leonard's, and they are so helpful. If you haven't come to Tom Leonard's, you need to, because they are here to educate you and help you get a good meal on the table. Now, so you need to bring a cooler with you in the car. Now you say, well, Annette, I'm going straight from the grocery store to home. Well, what's that time frame? Is it 10 minutes? Is it 5 minutes? Is it 30 minutes? Because that's the time that this meat is out of the cold. And that's not good. Once it warms up, then you have the opportunity for bacteria. Oh, yeah, we do not want any bacteria going on in our food. So if you're not going to cook this tonight, it needs to go in the freezer. Yeah, I always thought I had a couple days. You really don't. So put it in the cooler as soon as you buy it in your car, and even those cooler bags while you're shopping. And immediately buy your meat as soon as you're going home. In other words, don't make 3 more stops before you go home, unless you got a really good cooler. As soon as you get home, decide, are we having this tonight or we're not going to have it till tomorrow? Then you need to put it in the freezer because it's been kept really cold during the transportation process from the minute it was processed. So this is real important. Another factor you need to know about ground beef is it must never, never be served raw. Never eat a raw hamburger or a medium rare hamburger because of the bacteria in hamburger. Yes, it's not good. So always eat your hamburgers fully cooked. Now, not burned. I know some people that just eat it burned and it's like a charcoal and I'm like, that's awful. But it does need to be fully cooked. There should not be any pink in a hamburger. And it's because of the bacteria count, because this meat has all been processed. It's all been opened up. And so it's all exposed because of the way it's been done. And so that means you have a higher percentage of opportunity for bacteria. Now, let's move on to steak, and then we're going to talk about which one is the better option for you to have for dinner tonight. Most of the men in my life would rather have a delicious steak than a hamburger. And I can't blame them. When they are cooked well, they taste amazing. And so there's a reason why steak actually can taste better than hamburger, and that's because it has a richer flavor. It hasn't been mechanized, it hasn't been processed, and so you actually have a fresher flavor. Also, because it hasn't been chopped up. Once you start chopping into your steak, you lose a bit of the freshness and you lose a bit of the flavor. Another factor to consider is that steak stays fresher longer. So I've got this steak here at the store and it just looks beautiful. I still want to store it in a cooler on my way home just to keep it as fresh as possible. Now let's talk about bacteria. You're going to have less percentage, less opportunity for bacteria in steak than you are ground beef. The reason is, again, because it hasn't been chopped and processed. So when you're cooking a steak, once you have seared the outside of the steak, you have sealed in the juices and you have sealed in the flavor. You also have killed the bacteria. Whereas ground beef, chopped beef can have bacteria all throughout the meat. That is why we have to cook it thoroughly. Whereas with a steak, we can eat it medium rare. It can be pink in the middle. You get that delicious flavor and you don't have to worry about bacteria. So once you have seared it on hot on both sides, then you can cook it to your desired preference and the bacteria has been killed. So we've learned that refrigeration doesn't kill bacteria, freezer doesn't kill bacteria, only heat. So we need to make sure we are aware of that and teach your children that fact too, so they can learn how to cook as well. Now, let's just go on to a few tips on how we can make sure we're eating healthy meat. And you already know the answer to my question, which is safer to eat? Well, it's going to be the steak. Which is fresher and more flavorful? I would say steak, but yet so many of you are adding so many seasonings and favorite toppings on your hamburgers that they can taste pretty good. But sometimes to me, they taste more like the flavorings than they do real meat. So just check that out for yourself. Can you make a really good steak? And remember, put in the comments down below, how do you make your steaks taste amazing? So we can get some good tips from you, because I could use some good tips. I'm having so much fun doing this video because the butchers here keep coming over and giving me more information. So they wanted me to make sure I told you that there is a big difference between a bone-in steak, which I've got a good ribeye right here, versus a boneless steak. You're going to get a lot more flavor when you are searing your steak and cooking them with the bone in. Well, I think I've pretty much convinced you that a steak is going to be your safer meat to eat, but let's just go over how we can reduce the risk from the ground beef when you take it home. Number one, we need to keep the raw meat separate from your ready-to-eat foods. Never put it in the same drawer, the same area of your refrigerator as other foods. And number 2, wash your hands, counters, and utensils with hot soapy water after they touch the raw ground beef. This seems elementary that everyone should just know this, especially right now when we're in a crazy hand washing phase, but not everyone will notice that. So this is also utensils and your counters. So keep raw meat, whether it's ground beef or even the other meats, your steaks or your chicken, always cleaned up really well. And then the third is if you use a meat thermometer, which I use all the time, make sure you clean that in between uses so that it doesn't contaminate anything else. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this video as much as I have. I just love the enthusiasm of people here at Tom Leonard's. If you haven't been to the store, you need to check it out. If not, just for the band, because right now they're upstaging me again. Well, I just want to share with you that I am a net reader from the biblicalnutritionist.com. This is being sponsored by biblicalnutritionacademy.com. Check it out. Check out our courses on how you too can understand and learn more about God's recipe for excellent health. And yes, you might want to come and check out this meat. But remember, I taught you, bring your cooler and be ready for a delicious dinner. Thanks for watching. Be sure and hit the bell, the subscribe, the comments, share this with your friends. Let's help everyone to have an enjoyable dinner, a healthy dinner, no bacteria invited, and let's keep the flavor in our meal by having more steak instead of ground beef. Thanks for watching. Hello, I'm Annette Reeder, the Biblical Nutritionist, and I'm excited to personally invite you to our Biblical Wellness Retreat, October 3rd through the 5th. In 3 John, it says, I pray you may prosper and be in good health. Well, today's families are struggling with cancer, diabetes, autoimmune issues, viruses, learning issues, infertility, and so much more. Where is the answer to being in good health? In John 15:16, it says these words, whatever you ask of the Father in my name, he may give it to you. I know you're praying for answers, and I know you're praying for health. Well, my team and I are here to help you see the answers that God has given. The foods that help the body to heal, the design of the cells, and why different foods bring healing and other foods do not. We even have Dr. Jay Hitson coming to share about the inside view of the blood and why that matters so much in our body when we're healthy and when we're not. All of this is to bring you answers that you're praying for at a retreat so you can have fun, you can learn, you can spend time praying, but also we always have fun, food, and fellowship. When you're ready to reclaim your health, join us at the Biblical Wellness Retreat this October 3rd through the 5th, and we have very limited seats, so please don't delay. Click the link down below.